The Upside Down isn't just a spooky mirror world where demogorgons hang out. 5 seasons in, we still don't fully understand what makes it tick, why it froze on one specific night, or whether Henry Creel actually controls it. So today we are going to uncover how the Upside Down actually works. Well, it all started on November 6, 1983. Though it existed in Season 1, Nancy Wheeler only discovered it was frozen on that exact date in Season 4. It was the very night when Will Byers vanished. Every building, every street, every detail matched Hawkins on that exact date. Nothing changed. But then, the question that's haunted us fans is why that particular date? Why not November 6th, 1979, when Elle first banished Henry Creel to the Upside Down? Why not any other date? Well, the Duffer Brothers confirmed that this freeze is a big part of Season 5. They even admitted that someone on Reddit might have figured it out based on Volume 2's evidence. Some people claim that Will created it subconsciously. On the other hand, there are those who argue that Vecna molded it by himself. You see, when Eleven fought Henry Creel in the Hawkins lab massacre, she tore reality open, creating a rift between two dimensions. Henry fell through what witnesses called the Hellscape, a void where his body disintegrated. He landed in Dimension X, a realm that existed long before Hawkins, possibly long before Earth itself. Dimension X wasn't empty. It had alien life, vines that breathed, spores that drifted through toxic air, and shadowy particles that moved in a very disturbing way. When Henry crashed into it, he came in contact with those particles and they possessed long enough to turn him into Vecna. From then on, Vecna reshaped those living elements into a massive spider, the Mind Flayer. He claimed to control this creature, using it as the core of a hive mind. The Demogorgons, the vines, the spores, everything connected through psychic threads that Henry supposedly commanded. Vecna made himself the architect and master who bent an entire dimension to his will. He was a god, but for Dimension X. So here's the deal, Dimension X and the Upside Down aren't the same place. Dimension X existed independently, untouched by human influence. On the other hand, the Upside Down only came into being when Eleven opened that first gate in 1983, creating a collision between our reality and Dimension X. You remember when Will Byers got dragged through a portal by a Demogorgon? The Upside Down crystallized around that event, becoming a twisted mixture of Hawkins and Dimension X. If the Upside Down formed when Will entered it, then he might be the one person who is connected to that dimension more than anyone else. The boy's always been described as sensitive, creative, different, the same words used to describe young Henry Creel. Both were artistic. Both got targeted by the Mind Flayer for possession. The parallels aren't coincidental. Vecna chose Will deliberately because he recognized something useful. Will spent 7 days in the Upside Down during Season 1, 7 days breathing toxic air, hiding from predators, surrounded by decay and death. Nobody else survived that long. Barb Holland died within hours. Others were killed immediately. So Will's endurance wasn't just luck, there is a reason he was kept alive. Season 5. Volume 1 revealed Will has developed powers that let him kill Demogorgons with his mind. His eyes turned white, mirroring Vecna's clouded vision, suggesting the connection between them runs deeper than we know. Will can sense Vecna's presence, feel his emotions, and predict his movements. That bond never severed. The theory we've got is that Will unknowingly shaped the Upside Down into Hawkins. His trauma during the abduction might have triggered his psychic abilities. He unconsciously molded Dimension X into a reflection of the town he knew, creating a safety net his mind could navigate. The dimension became Hawkins because Will needed it to be Hawkins. To think about it, the snowball dance scene at the end of Season 2 confirms this. The transition from the real world to the Upside Down shows the same string lights, but the cars in the parking lot are flipped. Vehicles on the right in reality appear on the left in the other dimension. That mirroring shouldn't happen unless someone changed it. Just so you know, Will attended that snowball. Henry Creel couldn't have created the Upside Down's reflection of Hawkins. He was 8 years old in 1959 when he first entered Dimension X, over 20 years before the town developed its 1983 infrastructure. He never saw Nancy's diary. He never visited Eddie Munson's trailer. He never stepped inside locations that didn't exist when he was still human. Still, Will creating every detail consciously doesn't work either. For instance, he never read Nancy's diary. He never explored every building or every corner of Hawkins. The Upside Down contains places we'll never even set foot in, spaces he couldn't have known enough to recreate with such precision. So we're left to believe that something else happened. To be more exact, when Will crossed into Dimension X through that first portal, his psychic potential merged with the dimension, creating something like a snapshot of Hawkins at that exact moment. The November 6th, 1983 freeze. 11 opened the gate and Will entered through it. Vecna sensed the breach and pushed Demogorgons through to test the boundaries. All three psychic forces, 11's power, Will's hidden abilities, and Vecna's hive mind converged at the exact same time. So, the Upside Down formed as a result of that convergence, a new dimension born from the friction between realities. The thing is, Vecna wants everyone to believe he built this place. species. Season 4 sold that idea to us, positioning him as the god of that realm. But trust me, the truth is messy. Let's start with the chicken and egg paradox. Did Vecna really create the Mind Flayer? Or did the Mind Flayer manipulate Henry into becoming Vecna? We know the particles existed long before Henry's arrival, so clearly the second option sounds way more likely than the first. Besides, the Upside Down operates more like a body than a place. Every vining creature works as an extension of the hive mind, leading back to Vecna. He's not just living in the dimension, he is the dimension. The hive mind runs on the Mind Flayer's particles. Creel reshaped them into the massive spider entity everyone knows, but the particles themselves predate him. They're sentient on their own, capable of independent action and decision-making. When fused with Vecna's psychic abilities, they became a biological internet. If one creature sees something, they all know it. This shared consciousness explains why upside-down creatures move with eerie coordination. Demogorgons hunt as one organism with multiple bodies. Demobats swarm in perfect synchronization because they're receiving instructions from a central source. The vines react immediately to intrusion because they're extensions of Vecna. Nothing moves without him knowing, and he weaponized this network well. In Season 2, he possessed Will Byers by planting a fragment of the Mind Flayer inside him when he got captured. That tiny piece became a psychic link, turning Will into a spy without his knowledge. Will experienced visions, saw through the Mind Flayer's perspective, and felt its emotions and intentions. Joyce and Hopper thought they'd saved him, but Vecna had already embedded himself way too deep in Will's head. The possession worked because Will had been exposed to the Upside Down's atmosphere for days. That exposure altered him at a cellular level, making him compatible with the hive mind. Vecna didn't force his way into his mind. He really just walked through a door that was already open. When Joyce finally burned the Mind Flayer out of Will, the fragment fled to Brimborn Steelworks and went dormant. Vecna didn't lose that piece though. He just kept it in reserve until the time was right. A year later, when the Soviets reopened a gate beneath Starcourt Mall, that fragment became awake. It began infecting rats across Hawkins, forcing them to consume chemicals and fertilizers before dissolving into sludge that would become the Spider Monster. But let's be clear, Spider Monster was not a creature. It was just a construction built from melted human and animal tissue fused together through psychic will. Every victim who got flayed, including Billy Hargrove, had their bodies liquefied and made into the growing mass. The hive mind absorbed their biological matter, repurposed their flesh, turned them into components of a singular organism. Bruce and Tom's melted corpses were used for the hospital monster, which then slithered through storm drains to merge with the larger body. The tunnels beneath Hawkins in Season 2 were living extensions of the hive mind's network, spreading like roots beneath the town. The hub at their center served as a convergence point where information flowed most intensely. Vecna used Will's compromised connection to leak intel about that location, luring Hawkins lab soldiers into a trap where demodogs could ambush them. Gates themselves might be part of the hive mind structure. When 11 closed the mother gate in Season 2, every demodog connected to the network died instantly. Their psychic link to Vecna got severed, cutting them off from the consciousness that kept them alive. That immediate death confirms the creatures as puppets animated by the hive mind's will. Without that connection, they ceased to function. The same thing happened when Murray flamethrowed the Russian Demogorgons in Season 4. This vulnerability means that the hive mind's greatest weakness is its distributed consciousness means distributed vulnerability. Every creature Vecna adds to the network creates another weak point where he can be damaged. The more he spreads his influence, the weaker he gets. Speaking of creatures, the Upside Down is a sick ecosystem. We'll take it from the bottom to the top. At the foundation sit the vines, the most abundant and overlooked organisms in the Upside Down. These aren't plants, they're living sensors, like nerve endings extending from the hive mind. When someone touches a vine, every connected organism feels that contact. Vines react defensively but slowly, coiling and constricting like constrictors rather than striking like predators. Fire devastates them, burning through their fleshy membranes and sending pain signals cascading through the network. Next up, Demogorgons. They dominate the predator class, and their life cycle is just crazy. They begin as dark slugs planted inside hosts through tendrils. Barb Holland and Will Byers both got infected this way, carrying the parasites without realizing it. The larvae feed on host nutrients, slowly altering their body chemistry to make the environment more hospitable. Once the larvae leave the host, they molt into tadpole-sized creatures called polywogs. You might remember that Dustin kept one as a pet, Dart, not understanding what he was raising. Polywogs avoid light and heat instinctively, hiding in enclosed spaces until they're ready for the next transformation. The next form is a frog organ, a quadruped with developing claws and the beginnings of sharp teeth. At this point, the creature's hunting instincts activate. It stops scavenging and starts pursuing prey actively, though its size limits targets to small animals. Another molt brings the cat gorgon phase, where the creature reaches house cat proportions and develops the Demogorgon's signature petal mouth lined with rose rows of teeth. The face tears in sections, showing you that fleshy flower of teeth. Then we've got demodogs. They grow to the size of large dogs with muscles capable of bringing down adult humans. Their hides thicken, becoming resistant to low-caliber gunfire. They can run, jump, climb, and dig with incredible speed. The Russian Demogorgon in Kamchatka required some crazy measures to kill. Hopper severed one of its arms with a sword and then decapitated it, but it was still alive. So clearly, they really are not easy to kill. Number 4, Demobats. They are air defense for the Upside Down. These smaller flying creatures resemble bats with elongated bodies, membranous wings, and tails used for strangling prey. Individually, they are weak, so they compensate by attacking together at once. One Demobat is manageable. 50 attacking? You'd be better off running. They patrol key places in the Upside Down, like the gate sites in Vecna's lair. Then there's the big boss, the hospital monster, or spider monster. It was made by repurposing biological matter into new organisms. When flayed humans die, their bodies melt into pools of sludge that can be reformed into whatever shape Vecna requires. Tom Holloway and Bruce Lowe became the hospital monster, a crab-like creature that could flow under doors and reform on the other side. Finally, Vecna himself, the architect who owns the entire nightmare ecosystem. He's the central intelligence, the core that binds it all together. His physical form in the Upside Down serves as the hive mind's primary processing center. Vecna is a more dangerous predator than the others. He can enter human minds remotely, terrorizing victims with nightmares. He reconstructs their worst memories, weaponizes guilt and trauma, then kills them in ways that open new gates. Each murder is just him expanding his ability into the real world. 4 murders create permanent rifts. More deaths mean more gates and more opportunities to merge dimensions completely. Just to remind you, everything, down to Vecna himself, started with that one frozen moment on November 6th, 1983. The Upside Down's temporal freeze remains the dimension's deepest mystery. Everything exists exactly as it did on November 6th, 1983, the night Will Byers vanished. Nancy's diary stops mid-entry. Eddie Munson's trailer contains belongings from a decade before he lived there. The Creel house stands abandoned with furnishings from 1959, decades before the freeze date. Time stopped moving at that moment, and nobody knows why. The Duffer Brothers called this a big deal for season 5. They even suggested someone might crack it before the final episodes air, especially based on clues already present in season 4, volume 2. When 11 banished Henry Creel to Dimension X in 1979, that realm didn't resemble Hawkins at all. It was barren and filled with alien vines and hostile creatures. Henry spent years there reshaping the Mind Flayer particles and establishing his hive mind. Yet when he finally pushed back into our reality through the gates 11 kept opening, he encountered the Upside Down, a perfect replica of 1983 Hawkins. Henry couldn't have built that replica. He was 12 in 1959 when he first touched Dimension X through the Nevada cave incident. Even if he possessed a perfect memory of his childhood home, that wouldn't explain Nancy's private diary entries or the interior layouts of houses. The level of detail exceeds anything imagination or observation could produce. Someone with direct knowledge of 1983 Hawkins shaped that dimension. Again, we just need to look back at Will's 7-day captivity. Every other victim died quickly. Barb lasted hours. However, he survived a full week, communicating with his mother through manipulated electricity, hiding from Demogorgons, and somehow enduring that toxic atmosphere. Now, Season 5 tells us he now has psychokinetic powers, the same abilities Henry Creel possessed. Trust me, those powers didn't just pop out of nowhere. So there's this theory about how Will's trauma during abduction activated his abilities. Faced with a hostile alien dimension, his mind desperately tried to find familiarity and safety. So his subconscious reached out with psychic force and reshaped Dimension X into the one place he understood: Hawkins. His mind 3D printed Hawkins, copying his entire hometown from memory. Small anomalies support this. Joyce's alphabet wall appeared in the Upside Down during Season 1, allowing Will to communicate. Those letters shouldn't exist there. They were drawn after November 6th in the real world, yet somehow they manifested in the dimension. The Snowball Dance parking lot showed mirrored car positions, different from the original layout, possibly because Will attended that event and his connection unconsciously altered the Upside Down's version. Anyway, Season 5's emphasis on Will suggests the Duffers are building toward this revelation. He's the key to understanding what the Upside Down actually is. The frozen time, the perfect replication, the ongoing connection through his neck tingles, they all point toward Will being the Upside Down's true architect, with Vecna merely the tenant. Still, we'll only be able to confirm this when Volume 2 of Season 5 is released. It's a long wait, but it'll be worth it.